Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by Tri-County Logging. Experienced in sustainable forestry practices, Tri-County Logging can help you manage your property by keeping your woods healthy and generate income. Serving southern and mid-Michigan for nearly 50 years, TriCountyLogging.com. The first four-sided box call of its kind, 4-play turkey call. The patented design produces unique sounds that work well with call-shy birds. 4 different sound rails with lid movement along each rail for multiple tones. Take your calls to the next level with a 4-play turkey call.
Hi everyone, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Silik and we've got an all-new show in store for you this week. We're going to sit down with some folks from the fishing industry to bring you the second half of our Big Lake Roundtable discussion that we started last week. You won't want to miss that. We'll also have some bragging board photos for you at the end of the show, and Jimmy's going to take us out for some springtime fishing.
Well, that's right, Jenny. We're going to kick off this week's show by doing a little big lake fishing. I got a call from a buddy last week who said the Coho were in at New Buffalo, right down by the Indiana border. Headed down there for some great fishing. You won't want to miss that. Lots of good information on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's meat processor and Michigan destination since 1988. Offers a variety of homemade smoked meats and Michigan-made products in-store and online. The Country Smokehouse features an outdoor barbecue and bar. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By Greenmark Equipment. Greenmark Equipment is a John Deere dealership network in southwest Michigan and northern Indiana. Greenmark provides sales and services to farmers, commercial businesses, large property owners, and homeowners. Information about pricing and products available can be found online at greenmarkequipment.com. By Angler Quest Pontoons. Angler Quest is a Michigan-based company building boats designed for comfort and fishing functionality. For more information about the 2022 models, anglerquestpontoons.com. By Polar Craft Boats, offering riveted and welded boats for the outdoor enthusiast. Whether you're targeting fish or waterfowl, Polar Craft Boats have several models to choose from that keep you high and dry. For more information, polarcraft.com.
Well, we're about a mile, well, I call it south, but the people who live here call it west of New Buffalo. It's when you're from up our way, it's hard to get away from the north and south when it's really east and west. But, and yesterday we fished the mud and killed the coho, so we're going to try the same thing.
Okay, and how deep of water are you targeting here?
We are in 16 foot.
Wow.
It's been like 15 to 20 foot the last couple days.
Really?
Yeah, real shallow.
Now, what do you run for coho? What kind of lures?
It's been mainly the Brad's thin fins, but we've been doing decent on the little Coho Dodgers and Raptor coho flies. Okay. And then yesterday we caught some fish on some new Fuzzy Bear custom mag spoons for Captain Chuck's. Captain Chuck's got a line of custom Fuzzy Bears coming out just for his store, and we've been playing with them and they're working. So.
Nice. And how long will this fishery stay here?
In here shallow, probably a couple more weeks. Okay. And then they'll move out once the water warms up in here.
Once we got outside the pier and started to set lines, we had fish hit right away. These fish were pretty much just outside of the channel in the muddy water, at least to start the day. It was fun to learn about this coho fishery and just how old these fish are.
That's probably what they're considering like a 2 or 3 year old. Coho only live to 3, so chances are that fish is probably going to be 7 to 10 pounds by the time it gets to August and September up at Platte Bay.
Okay. Well, you've been fishing this water for a long time, right?
Oh yeah, started my charter, learned how to fish here actually during BKD, so I learned how to silverfish offshore primarily, coho in the spring, and then go steelhead fishing. Here goes one right here. Somebody come catch this.
Somebody gonna catch that fish?
Grab that, the board's not tripping on it.
We just kept finding fish, and old Fuzzy Bear here, well, he is an expert on these fish and filled me in a little bit more about this fishery.
Well, the coho they come in all winter essentially. They winter offshore a little bit, but they're looking for something to eat. As soon as the ice goes away, the coho show up in that skinny water, and most at the harbors where it's warmer. And then once the bait starts showing, the alewives show up, then the kings will follow them. Within a week, if you start seeing some little pods of bait, within a week there'll be some kings on it. And there's been a few kings caught already, which is a little scary because it's early, by about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But they're just scattered kings. So like they had a small cabin fever tournament out of Michigan City in Portage this weekend, and there's probably a handful caught that were weighed, and that many missed, and that's just out for that one tournament. So it's just a matter of time before they show up. If we have good stable weather, then we'll get kings. But if we get tore up from big north winds down here, any length of time, 2, 3, 4 days of north wind, it'll tear this end of the lake up. And if it times in with the bait showing up, then the kings will bypass Portage, Michigan City, and then they'll come to New Buffalo to St. Joe, where there's deeper water for them.
The day was going great, and we had a lot of fish in the boat. It was also fun to learn a little bit more about some of the gear that these guys use here in the southern part of Lake Michigan.
Big John sideliners, usually a willy board. I like to use them for coho because they got beads in it.
Okay.
And a lot of times in the spring we're fishing dirtier water, and coho aren't sound shy. They'll come on the boat. We've got divers that are 10, 15 feet off the boat, they'll get smoked by a coho. So they're not boat shy. So I feel this noise keeps them active and keeps them coming to the board. Then they see the bait coming behind it.
Do you only use those for coho, or?
I typically do. If I go offshore to fish steelhead in cold, clean water, I'll go to a quiet board.
Okay.
It's a personal preference. Just, and then we'll transition to the bigger boards. The Ninja boards from Dreamweaver, they have a small walleye size and a large one.
Okay.
And I like to use both of those. That's on a Raptor fly.
Oh, that's a stubby, huh?
Yep, and that's the stubby Dodger. The guys in Wisconsin and Illinois are using them quite a bit.
Okay.
Lord Jensen's not making them anymore.
Huh.
They stopped making the little orange Dodgers, which everybody uses thousands of them every year. But that fly in dirty water is good. Brent just tied that up the other day.
Pretty looking fish.
Yes, they are. Best eating of the year. That's why we like to come get them ourselves. Chester, come catch this. King.
Oh, that's a king there.
Come catch this, Chester.
Oh, we got a king on.
Where you at, Chester? Music. It's music. Hit that little stubby Dodger. Lock yourself in, buddy. I got you.
Here's a net ready rubber over here. I got the big
One of the questions that I have wondered about is why southern Lake Michigan gets this push of fish, but not as much up north this time of the year.
Warmer water temperature.
Okay.
Out of Michigan City, you need 5 miles to get to 60 feet. You have your first 60, then 7 miles to 100 feet. So our water warms faster, and it absorbs the heat because it's dirtier with the north wind. So it just warms faster, and the bait shows faster. So the bottom line, they have to have something to eat.
Well, Chester was doing his best to battle this king. We also had Dom, Ryan, and Trevor on board today, and we were all hoping we could get this dandy king in the net. Hey!
That's a goodie, Chester.
That's a tall one.
A spring toad. Look at that, Chester. Good job, buddy.
That is a big fish.
That's our big fish expert there.
Hey, Chester, first king of the year.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
That's a dandy.
That is huge.
That's a 20-pounder.
On a coho fly. Love it.
Look at that.
What a fish. The guys say later in the season this fish would be most likely about a 30-pounder. It was nice that all these fish were holding so close to shore.
Same spot as yesterday, right up the center of the channel. So, pretty nice. With the price of gas, a nice spot to fish. Not that we're cheap or nothing.
We had a lot of doubles today and even a triple or two. It's not like this on every trip, but when Brent called me the day before and said, "Get down here," well, he was right.
Your side.
We had a great day. We had 23 coho, 1 dandy king, and a nice steelhead as well. It was quite the day in the skinny water, finding nothing but silver fish. Thanks to all the guys, and if you want to head to Lake Michigan, head south. Should be some good fishing yet to come here in Michigan's Out of Doors. Well, if you saw the show last week, you saw part 1 in our 2-part series, kind of a roundtable discussion about big lake fishing and primarily Lake Michigan fishing. What we're going to do this week is hear from the guys about what they think about the stocking program here in Michigan, and if they were the head honcho for the DNR for one day in the fisheries department, would they do anything different? Now, what about stocking? Do you think, kind of, just give me your thoughts on how impactful is the stocking program here in Michigan? Are we doing a good job of that, bad job of that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on just the whole stocking in general.
I think, in Ludington, so we have the Pere Marquette River, probably one of the largest natural reproduction rivers, and Poundwater benefits from it. We also
we benefit from it almost more than
we do.
I think they stage down more our way, and then they go up and go in. But that's all right.
It's thanks. Yeah, it doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
You call us all the time to let us know that.
Yeah, I call you every time we get a bite.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Sometimes there's a big cell phone block. It's like it just
we don't have really good service
transmission.
Our cell phones tend to have a little bit of issue down
but
there.
If we ever send transmission, like, wow, we're getting him at the project, all of a sudden
he's right
here
there.
comes the 36 tier right up the shore. Well, that one got through.
Yeah.
But
anyways.
So, when they cut our king plants in Ludington, I don't think we've planted kings in 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But they did replace it with cohos, and we have had a coho fishery that's non-existent really in Ludington. We used to get a push. There's a lot of cohos that end up in Frankfurt area and Platte Bay
but them fish typically go up the Wisconsin side and come across. After they leave the southern basin.
We might
they cut
see
across,
them,
and we don't see as many of them.
We might see them briefly, like 10 days maybe in the whole season. Last year, brown fishing, we were catching cohos, small cohos, just like you catch in St. Joe and Michigan City. Not the numbers, but we were seeing that. We caught cohos all year round this year.
There was days in June last year we had 10 to 12 coho on trips,
That saves your trip. You're gonna
so how long have they been stocking coho then around here?
They started that right away.
Yeah, they started that when they started, because basically there's a ratio on the stocking. You put a king equivalent, so a king is
a king's
a 1.
A 5.
Yeah, king's at, because they say, let's say king's a 5. Well, then you go to a coho is really a 2, so you can plant 2.5 fish for that. Or I'm not exact. We'd have to look at the exact numbers, but the king eats the most, so it's 1, and then maybe you can plant say 3 coho to 1 king, or 5 steelhead to 1 king, and so forth and so on. But like they're talking about these coho, we've got the Ludington Charter Boat Association that does a net pen out of the state park, and I want to say it's like 30 to 40,000 fingerlings that they put in to then release. So that's helping feed that natural resource to just come back into the our different rivers that we have, and start feeding it. But the stocking as a whole, they had to pull back because of the decline. We didn't want to have a Lake Huron situation. And now that we're back and everybody's like, put more kings. Well, it's a delicate fishery out there. Yeah, we don't want to overdo it, because all you have is one bad year of weather or class of alewives, and we're in another bad situation. So the stocking is vital to answer that question.
Diversity is where it's at.
Yeah, diversity is where it's at, but you got to have
that's what
the
it's
stocking.
supposed to be.
Yeah,
for their long range goal.
And the fact that when we do plant these fish, you got to plant enough at a spot so that they'll hold. Basically, I know Jay said like 100,000 is what you need to plant in an area. So, well, they may plant, say, 100,000 down in St. Joe and then jump up to the Grand or wherever. It doesn't make any sense to just throw 30,000 here or there. Our coho, on the other hand, is different. The kings, you got to have the numbers.
Yeah.
So, stocking is critical for our fishery.
Yeah, I mean, we're very reliant on natural reproduction. There's a lot of variables to natural reproduction that can hinder an entire year class. If you have eggs get silted in, so you have spawning fish spawning in gravel, and then right after that you have high water, you get silt and debris that's going to silt those eggs into the rocks, and that's it. That year class is gone. So I think there's definitely a balance between natural fish and planted fish, and I think the planted fish are more consistently, you're going to have at least this amount of fish every year, and then whether or not natural reproduction.
Is there any idea how many the percentage of those stockings that actually live through the whole process?
I think it's 10%.
Yeah, you're at 10%. That's why that 100,000 is so critical.
Okay.
The ones that actually make it to maturity is small.
Yep.
Whether it's natural predation, catching or whatever. So.
Well, and that's a consideration too. Is say you take 10,000 salmon and you release them, right? You have this so you have all these predator fish that are going to feed, and birds that are going to feed on this fish right away.
Yeah.
And there's X amount of those predators. Well, each predator can only eat so much, and then the rest would get by. So if you only plant 10,000 fish, they could all be eaten by predators, and you would have no return. Where if you planted 100,000, then you would have 90,000 make it past the predators, at least to have a chance. So it is important. But then there's a lot of political pressure, like, well, here we need to have our fish, and we'll give you 25,000. Well, you'd be better off to save the 25,000 from 4 ports and put them in 1 port than you would be to put 25,000 in 4 ports.
And you guys might not know the answer to this question, but because we did a story earlier this year on the stocking out of Grand Haven, and they had the net pens there and all the stuff, but they ended up with like an extra 100,000 or some crazy amount. It was like, what happened? How does that happen?
During COVID, they did not the spring of COVID, they did not do a harvest of steelhead eggs, and so they didn't have the hatchery didn't produce steelhead that year, so they could not release those. So to replace the steelhead that would have been released in the predator ratio, they put kings.
Basically, what it came down to is, in order to plant in tribal waters, you have to go to the tribe, and all parties have to agree to it. If they want to plant out of tribal waters, which is basically south, I forget the exact location, but it's basically south of Muskegon, is where the treaty waters are north.
So that's how they could put those fish.
So they could put those fish there and not have to go there and ask that question. Now, that again goes to what Adam's talking about. You're walking that line because, well, if we can add kings, why can't we add more trout or more whitefish or things along those lines, because that's what they what they want up north or whatever, or let them catch that. It goes back to that balance of that ratio of how many kings they can put in.
And there's tons of misinformation, especially on social media, and people are always saying, why don't they plant bait? But it doesn't. If they took all of the hatchery resources that they have and they raised nothing but alewives, and they released it, it would feed the kings and the predator fish for like 1 day. So the bait has to be able to sustain itself. That's why it was important to reduce the predator level, let the bait recover. If the bait can't sustain itself, you can't just keep adding food. It has to.
Big fishbowl.
Yeah, it's a big fishbowl. It's like when you were a kid and you had an awesome aquarium, and then you went to the store and you thought, oh, this Oscar would fit in there so good. And you threw it in there and it ate everything, and then the Oscar died.
So it's kind of interesting that stocking is so crucial. I mean, I think maybe people don't realize, well, it's a huge lake, and what does it matter if they throw in 10,000 or 100? But you're saying it really affects everything.
And it affects things for a lot of years.
Right.
Yeah.
If you throw, 500,000 kings in, they're in there for 4 years. And then they're going to reproduce.
Yeah.
And whatever ratio of that reproduction happens. So now you've made an adjustment, a large adjustment to this fishery that is going to probably have a lasting effect for at least a decade, if not longer.
Okay.
And lake trout, I mean, I've caught lake trout that were 25, 26, 27 years old.
We turned one in couple years ago, and it was tagged in '86.
Yeah.
Really?
They had, I think they've been doing that adipose tagging for somewhat like 30 years now.
Wow.
And we sent that one in, and it came back 1986.
Huh.
It was only like a 17-pound fish.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing if you start to think, I think browns can live 6-7 years. Cohos only live 3 years. Steelhead probably 6-7 years, 8 years maybe.
So, I mean, we've touched a little bit on the DNR, and I think you guys have said some nice things about them, which is great. I mean, but let's say you were the head honcho for the DNR, and you're the main fisheries guy, and what would you do differently than, or maybe you wouldn't do anything differently, but if you were king for a day and you got to pick, how would you change what's happening in Lake Michigan?
I don't think that's an easy question.
I would
seemed
probably
easy enough.
I'd probably put in my papers for my 2-week notice.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would retire at that day.
Yeah, I think.
Well,
I
it's a
just quit.
tough job, and it's easy to bash the DNR. But like you said,
Yeah.
they've done a good job of keeping the fishery going. And so, I mean, maybe they're doing a great job. I'm not.
I think that it's really unfortunate the amount that politics play in stocking.
Okay.
And it has to do with there's a lot of different people with their hand in the pie.
Yeah.
And be it different states, be it different organizations, there's a lot of different things. And I think that I believe in science. Like, I'm not a denier of science. I think science changes constantly. So especially like assessing bait populations and stuff. If you make a mistake, you want to be on the safe side. That's for sure. But at the same point, I think that there's people that have their hand in the pie that don't care about the fishery. And it's really unfortunate. I'm not going to overly divulge in that, but I think there needs to be some accountability for different groups, and there's questions that should be answered that don't get answered, and it's really unfortunate.
One thing I think the general public needs to realize is, like, when an officer comes up to them, that officer isn't the one making those decisions. They're the ones that interact with the public, and they get the blunt of all the complaints when they got nothing to. They have no say in what's going on. So if one of the officers comes and stops you to check you, you can't really blame him for the fishery. I mean, if you don't like what they're doing, he doesn't have any more say in it than we do. So,
well, I would just add that, again, the politics that come into play. I wholeheartedly believe that the stockings, because of the science and the data, we could have gone more if they want to say they're going to err on the side of caution. But, we're in the midst of negotiating the 2020 consent decree that expired. Well, we're going on 2.5 years. There's a status conference coming up in March that they're like, hey, what's happening? Well, we don't know what's happening, and because of the confidentiality. And, I think that they didn't increase the plants even more because of the politics. And, to answer your question directly, if I was king for a day, I would sit there and say, we made it through this, almost, crash that could have happened like Huron. The science worked. The decree that we had in place worked. It's a shared resource. Just leave it there. Let's just move forward with it and then get the transparency out there. And that's what I think is missing. But that would be awesome, just to say, hey, look back, because we have people that have negotiated this thing from the beginning. Let's just put them in place and let them do their job and be done with it.
Special thanks to the guys for being a part of our roundtable discussion about Lake Michigan fishing. If you'd like to see the entire unedited conversation, you can check out our YouTube page where we have it all right there.
Thanks so much for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. Make sure you stick around in upcoming weeks. We'll all be out in the woods this weekend with cameras rolling for opening day of turkey season, which is this Saturday. Speaking of Saturday, if you're looking for something else fun to do, on April 23rd, Frank's Great Outdoors in Linwood is having Archery Palooza. Lots of great fun activities to be had there, archery related. If you'd like more information, you can always check it out online.
Well, that's right, Jenny. Online is a good way to kind of keep tabs on us. You can do that through our website, social media platforms, YouTube, lots of places you can be checking us out. And good luck if you get out there on the turkey opener this week. There's so much good stuff happening around the state of Michigan. Get out and enjoy it. And if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully you see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by.
Do you dream of somewhere bigger than your backyard? You can get there with Greenstone. Whether you want to hunt, fish, hike, or just watch the sunset, we're ready to help you own your place in the great outdoors. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com.
By Alta Equipment Company, providing sales, rentals, service, and parts because uptime matters. From earth moving to landscaping and light construction, Alta offers over 50 brands across 7 Michigan locations to serve you. More information online or 844-GO, 2,
Closed captioning provided by Marvo Mineral, makers of Lucky Buck, deer management products including minerals to supplement deer diets year-round to improve health and antler growth.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man.